Imagine you spend your entire life climbing one mountain and you go through all the bumps and the bruises and the scrapes and the scratches and you fall down and get up and you finally get to the top of the mountain and you're excited and you're about to throw your fist in the air and celebrate. But all of a sudden you look across the valley and you realize you climbed the wrong mountain. And it's heartbreaking. And that's the feeling that I had. That's the experience I had. I built the wrong business. I hate social media marketing. I'm just good at it. I don't want to do this anymore. The last thing I want to do is raise more money from investors and be stuck in this company for the next 10 years. I can't stand waking up and going to work every day to my own company. So I thought I was building a palace, but I actually ended up building this prison. Anyone who feels unfulfilled or feels this emptiness inside, it's only because they're not clear on their purpose. Because once you find your purpose, once you get clear on why you exist in this world and what you want to create, the fulfillment is there.
Yeah.
I want to build the largest personal development brand in the entire world and lead a revolution that changes the world. I'm not there yet, but I'm fulfilled every day because I'm moving towards it. And that's the amazing thing. When you get clear on your purpose, you don't have to achieve your purpose to be fulfilled. A purpose is different than a goal. A goal, you're not going to be fulfilled until you actually achieve it.
Right.
So you spend 99% of your time trying to achieve this goal for the 1% fulfillment that you're going to feel at the very end if you actually achieve your goal. And so it's kind of a miserable process a lot of the time because you're suffering and you're struggling versus a purpose. It's like, I have this purpose that I might never live into because it's huge. It's massive. Lead a revolution that changes the world. Come on. But every single day I'm taking one step closer. So I feel this massive level of fulfillment. And it's one of the best feelings to feel like nothing is missing.
Yeah.
And so anyone, who's really struggling with that emptiness or that unfulfillment or feeling unsatisfied, those are the people that I can really help the most, because when you find your purpose, fulfillment is just a way of being. You wake up fulfilled, and it's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
I had 2 different dinner tables because when I was 8 years old, my grandparents took custody of me. So when I was living with my parents, the dinner table was always me and my grandma sitting at the dinner table in the kitchen, and my mom and my dad sitting out in the living room on the couch watching TV. And I don't know what it was, but ever since I was a little kid, I always loved eating dinner at a dinner table. And so it would be me and my grandma, and we would sit there and eat dinner together every night. And my parents would be out in the living room, doing their thing. And, but my parents struggled with alcohol. And so when I was 8 years old, my grandparents took custody of me. And the dinner there, it was so interesting because, my grandma would make this amazing dinner every night. My grandpa would come home from work and they would sit at the dinner table for hours just talking. The TV wasn't on. They would just sit there for hours talking. And, I remember I'd sit there and I'd eat dinner with them, and they'd cut up, my little pieces of steak into perfect little squares. And then I could play under the table while they're eating. And it was this amazing experience where I feel like that's where I learned what a truly good relationship should look like.
Yeah. It sounds like that
forever.
Yeah. It sounds like the connection that they had must have been really amazing, where they,
yeah,
that's amazing. That's really, really cool. What's, so were you entrepreneurial growing up at all? Did you sell candy, or were you that guy, doing those types of things? Or
I was going to say that's exactly what I did. So
yeah.
my first real sales experience was I was in 6th grade. And remember Warhead candies, those super sour candies? So they used to have suckers. And so my grandma would go to Sam's Club and she'd buy a huge tub of them, 100 of them or 200 of them for $10. And she'd bring it home and I'd fill my backpack with them. And in all my classes, I would sell them all for $1.
Yeah.
So my pencil bag was full of quarters and $1 bills. And I was even selling them to my teachers. I remember my home class teacher, she made me save all the cherry ones for her. And she'd hand me a $10 bill. And I was like, dang, I got $10.
Yeah,
that's so cool. And I was selling so many that eventually I got called down to the dean's office and they said, you can't sell stuff. You can't sell candy to kids.
They ruin everything, don't they?
Ruined everything. And so that was my first time really doing something in a sales world and getting a taste of what it's like to kind of be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so that was the first experience. And then I remember I went door to door selling Tupperware for my grandma because she got into the whole Tupperware thing. And I was like, if I sell it, will you pay me some money? She's like, yeah. So I went to all of our neighbors' houses and they couldn't say no. I was like a little kid.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect strategy for her. She didn't have to do any of the work. She got to give me like $20 or whatever. And then, mowing people's lawns and all that stuff. When I was a kid, I did all that stuff.
Yeah. So you were pretty much a go-getter right from the beginning. Where do you think that came from anything? Were you like, did you get any inspiration, motivation? Did you witness anyone, kind of getting out there and making it happen themselves, or was it just inside you? Yeah.
It was just, I don't know. I've always been kind of like a talker. Like, everyone, when I was a kid, they were like, you're either going to be a salesperson or a lawyer, because the way that you can talk and persuade and all that. And I was just always pretty enthusiastic. And I don't know, after my grandparents took custody of me when I was 8 years old, like I realized like there was something inside me where it's like, I want to do something amazing with my life. Like, my parents are the most amazing, loving people, but they also showed me what not to do.
Yeah.
And my grandparents were, these people where it's like, they were in their late 40s, all their kids were out of the house, and they decided, we're going to take this 8-year-old kid and we're going to go through that whole experience again of raising another kid.
Yeah.
And they were just so encouraging. Like, I'd come home one day and I said, I'm going to do this. And they're like, yeah, you are. And you're going to be the best at it in the world. And so they had all of this encouragement, and they created this deep-seated belief in myself that I could really do anything I put my mind to. And so I was very, very fortunate, because the first 8 years of my life were very, very challenging, dealing with my parents being alcoholics and fighting and the crazy stuff that I experienced and saw. It was intense. And so to go into that environment with my grandparents was a completely different experience. And I think I went from like survival mode, living with my parents, to, oh, I can actually breathe here. I feel safe here. Like I can actually like figure out, what do I want to do with my life and who do I want to be, rather than just trying to make sure my parents aren't fighting. So it had a huge impact.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So did you go to college, do all of that, or did you, what were kind of your next steps, through growing up?
So I went to 4 different colleges and dropped out of all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And so I hated school, to be honest. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the books that we read. I couldn't stand the homework. So I was like a straight C student.
Yep.
I tried for 1 quarter in high school and I got straight A's. I studied and did my homework and I got straight A's, and I was just like, this is really unfulfilling. The only thing that I enjoyed about it is my grandpa gave me like $50 for every A that I got. So I got some money. I was like, that's cool. But I just, from the beginning, it was just like, I couldn't wait until I could get out of school and start working. And so one of my very first jobs is I got this job working door-to-door sales when I was 18 years old. And we used to sell these coupon books. And I would get to the office at 10 o'clock, and then we'd go out at noon. And then from noon until 9 o'clock at night, you'd be walking around knocking on people's doors. Yeah. And I loved it the day I started. Yeah. And it was just so much fun. And that's where I really learned sales and communication and working with people. And I was only 18, but I was number 3 in the entire company out of 20 sales offices in sales. Wow. And I built a little team underneath me of like 15 other people and trained them. And I did that for a year. And that was a really, really cool experience. And I was trying to go to school at the time. And it was just like, I would go work and I was like, I love working. I love hustling. I love learning. I love making money. I love this stuff. And then I'd go sit in the classroom and it'd be like, ah. And so I kept thinking, maybe it's the school, And so when I quit the door-to-door stuff, I went and I got an internship as a financial planner, and then I got my licenses and everything, and I became a financial advisor. And I was doing that, so I switched my degree from business to finance, and then I realized that I hated finance and I hated numbers. So I left that company, and then I switched my degree from finance to art, and I started going to art school. And then I finally started my first business, and I was like, school's not for me. Business is for me. And
what was the first company or first business that you started?
So the very first business that I started, we actually launched one of the very first social media marketing agencies in the country.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, this was back in Denver. And this is before businesses were even using Facebook. And I remember one of the first meetings, we went and met with these restaurant owners, these 2 guys. And we walk in there and we walk in full suits, a tie, everything.
Yeah.
We just probably looked so ridiculous walking into this like pizza place, and these guys are wearing like shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah.
And we walk in there and we go over this amazing presentation, do analysis of their social media pages. And they're like, and then we tell them the pricing and we're like, so we'll do everything for you on Facebook. We'll post every day. We'll do custom photography. We'll interact with everyone. We'll do everything. They won't even know that it's not you guys. And it's $250 a month. And they looked at us and they just laughed. They're like, you guys are crazy. They're like, there is not a single company that is ever going to pay you guys $250 a month
That's amazing.
to run their social media.
Yeah.
And we were just like, they just don't get it yet. There were no companies in Colorado doing that at the time.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we just kept hustling. And we went from charging $250 a month to $1,500 a month to $2,000 a month. And we built that company over a year and a half and we sold it. And that was like my first real company. And that was an amazing experience to see what it was like to go through that process.
And going back to those days when you're just getting started, I think that this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs sort of struggle with is, pricing and setting their pricing, right? So, to me, $250, obviously in today's world, $250, I'm thinking like, man, you guys probably were losing money, at that price, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you go about, scaling that up and learning to value your time and your services for, a price that you were actually making money, with it?
Yeah. Well, our first goal, and I think it's a good goal for every entrepreneur to have, is to just be able to cover your expenses, to be able to pay the bills. And so for me and my business partner, we both knew I need $1,000 a month to pay my bills. You need $1,000 a month to pay your bills. So we got to get to $2,000 a month. Otherwise, we got to go get jobs. And we got a month to do that. We've got a month to figure it out. So we got to hustle. And so in the beginning, it was like, if you will be our customer, we'll take it. And but the thing is, at the same time, is those were all of the customers that we were practicing on. We were learning how to do this. I remember my very first social media, my very first Facebook post that I did for a client, the picture was sideways. When I posted it, the picture was sideways. And I was so new to Facebook that I didn't even know how to delete it.
Yeah, that's funny.
And it was just like, we're cutting our teeth on these new customers. So I always look at it like when you start a business, your first couple of customers are practice. So they're basically paying you to practice on them. And so I say, like, take what you can get, like, and then once you actually build up expertise and you start, creating some buzz and people start hearing about you and you start to really provide value and show that you're an authority in what you're doing, then you start to raise the prices.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it's like, you can charge a lot, but if you don't get any customers, you don't have a business. And so my mindset every time I start a business is take what you can get in the beginning because they're paying you to learn. They're paying you to be your guinea pig. And I think when you do that, it allows you to first get a customer so you can learn a ton. You are making some money, which feels great. But you're making progress. And I think it's so important for any new entrepreneur to make progress. You've got to see that you're getting somewhere. Whether the client's paying you $100 a month or $1,000 a month is not as important than actually having the client.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what that client will turn into.
Yep. And I think that's, you started off with knowing what not only what you need, but what your expenses are, right?
Yeah.
I think that's again where a lot of people fall down and they just keep, buying and not necessarily knowing, where any of their money is going to, or, they don't necessarily understand the costs and all of that, with their business. So
Totally.
Key points there. So, what'd you do next? What'd you get into after the social media marketing?
Yeah. So we built that company and then we sold it. And then like a month later, we started another social media marketing company because I was looking at it and I was like, okay, we've got this agency model and every certain amount of clients we bring on, we have to hire a certain amount of more people. This just isn't that scalable.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if there was a way to automate posts where it's like for every restaurant, we could do one post and post it out to all of their pages and charge them $200 a month.
Yeah.
$300 a month. month for automated posts that are all the same posts. And so I had this idea, and then we saw there was one company that was doing it, somewhere in the eastern part of the United States, but it wasn't a thing. And so me and my business partner, we launched this other company, this second company, and we wanted this one to be scalable. We wanted this one to be the one that was big.
Yeah.
So we did automated Facebook posts for 10 different industries: chiropractors, dentists, salon owners, gym owners, all this kind of stuff. And they could pay us $500 a month, and we would just post to them automatically.
Yep.
And so we launched that business, and the first couple months, like our sales team, they were just not getting sales. It was just like $500 we realized was way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then we dropped our pricing down to like $97 a month. And that's when the sales started rolling in.
Okay.
And we realized, like, for automated posts, like for us, our margins are so high because we create one Facebook post. It doesn't matter if we have 10 clients or 1,000 clients, they all get the same post, and it's all automated.
Yeah.
And so we realized we could be flexible on the pricing. And that's the thing, like when you're starting a business, you have to pivot. If something's not working, you got to change it before you get too far in the hole.
Yeah.
And we saw that and we're like, hey, this isn't working. We got to change our pricing. And so we changed our pricing. Then we started getting all these sales. And our first 6 months, we got to about $15,000 a month of revenue. And then we decided, we heard of this thing called Techstars. And this is back in the day when Techstars was literally harder to get into than Harvard. They had less than a 1% acceptance rate. And, we're hustlers and we're watching the videos of what it's like to be in Techstars. And we're like, we got to go for it.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get into it. And so we hustled, and we're like, we found all the CEOs that went through Techstars in Denver, and we reached out to all of them and said, hey, we're young entrepreneurs. We'd love to get some advice from you. Is there any way you'd be willing to meet up for lunch? We'll buy you lunch and we could just pick your brain. Yeah. We met with all these, CEOs. One of them was the CEO of SendGrid, which is now a massive company.
Absolutely.
And half of them said, you guys got this. Like, you guys are for sure going to get into Techstars. They're going to love you guys. The other half said, you guys don't stand a chance. You're not a tech company.
Yeah.
You're a social media marketing company. You don't have any technology. You don't even have a CTO. You don't even have your own proprietary system. Like, there's no chance. It's called Techstars.
Yeah.
And the CEO of SendGrid at the time told us that. He was such a nice, super helpful guy, but he's like, you guys don't stand a chance. And we were like, you know what? We're going to push anyway. We're going to hustle. We showed up to every Techstars event. We got to know the director. We updated her on our company every week. And there were 1,300 companies that applied, and they were only going to select 11. Okay. And this was to the Boulder location where we got to work directly with David Cohen and, all that good stuff. So our odds of getting in there were basically non-existent. We weren't a tech company. And then we found out that we got into the top 50. And we were like, what? How do we get into the top 50? But the top 50, they had to come to the Techstars office, and they had to give a 5-minute pitch to like 10 or 15 people. This was, the founders of Techstars, some early investors in Facebook, VCs of these huge funds, like super intensely successful business people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we got to stand out. So what I decided to do, I bought this all white suit, and I had it tailored, and I walk in there wearing this all white suit, and I'm like, I'm just going to go all out. And they're like, okay, you have 5 minutes, go. And there's all these points you had to hit. And I was just like, boom, 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 boom. And I killed it. And at the end of my 5 minutes, the director, she was like, wow, I feel like that deserves an applause or a standing ovation. And I was looking across the room, and all their faces were like, well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And so I knew that they were really impressed. Like, we showed them that we're hustlers, and, we're not a tech company, but we have a plan to become a tech company, build our own software and all that stuff. And then after that, we found out that we made it into Techstars, and that's when our lives changed forever. So yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So where did you, would you attribute your presentation skills to the door-to-door sales that you were doing earlier
100%.
on? Is that kind of, Yeah,
100%.
That's where it all started, huh? And
go ahead.
No, I just was going to say, like, anything that comes to mind as far as creating a good, live presentation like that, any tips or advice if someone's looking to get up in front of somebody, whether that be a few people or if that's, a board or whatever it is, but anything that comes to mind as far as, creating a memorable presentation.
Yes. Be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Be authentic. You know, it's so interesting because we live in such an inauthentic world.
Yeah.
You know, you look at social media and it's like everyone's life is perfect and everything's great, and it's just so inauthentic. And I think that people love authenticity. People love realness. We all crave that. And in the business world, there's so much inauthenticity. Everyone's trying to be perfect. They're trying to be professional. They're trying to be the CEO. They're trying to be this, they're trying to be that. And it's like when I walked in there with an all white suit in front of 10 of the most badass business people in Colorado, it was like, I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
Take it or love it. You know, I'm going to be me. And so it was like that authenticity helped so much. And that's what I learned when I did the door-to-door sales. It's like, don't have a pitch, just be you. If you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, don't be funny. If you're serious, be serious. If you're happy, be happy. Be you, because there's no better thing that you can be than yourself. And people can feel that authenticity, and we naturally gravitate towards people who are authentic. And, you know, this has carried through my entire life when it comes to sales, of just being myself. You know, I'm pretty outgoing and ridiculous and absurd and all these different things. And so that's why I showed up in a white suit. And then we fast forward to demo day, right? You go through Techstars for 3 months, meet with investors, transform your business, all that. And every day for those 3 months, like you're figuring out your pitch. Demo day, you know, you stand on stage in front of 1,000 people, 200 of the people in the audience are investors deciding if they're going to give your company money.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking at everyone's presentations. We have to practice every day. And all these CEOs, they get up there and they're super professional and they read their stats. And, you know, it's like, it's just really, really businessy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to
That's
be
not
me because this is not me. I can't get up there and just be some fake professional business person. It's not me. And I got one shot at this. And what I want is when I walk off that stage, I want to be proud of who I was up there.
Yeah.
And so at the time, Psy was really popular, Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
And I happened to look like him. I was a little bit chubbier than I am now. And so I got the hair done. I went and had a suit made that was the blue jacket and everything.
Yeah.
And social media, you know, we're social media marketing, and he was, you know, huge on social media. And so we kind of tied it together. And so most CEOs, they got up there and they read their stats and all that stuff. I got up there dressed like Gangnam Style, sunglasses on and everything. And how I started my presentation is I did the Gangnam Style dance. And I do, and everyone's cheering and screaming. And I go through this presentation. I'm like, you know, we don't just do posts for real estate agents. You know, we do it for salon owners. And then there's a picture of me dressed, you know, wearing a wig, blow drying my hair. We do it for gym owners. There's me with a fake 6-pack, you know, and I'm just making fun of myself the whole time, being fully self-expressed. And we raised $500,000 like that. It was the easiest thing I've ever done in business. And I had never raised money before. Because what it did, that authenticity is, it's going to either repel people or attract them to you. The authenticity. And I know that there were investors in the audience where they were like, this guy's a joke. Like, he doesn't take his business or himself seriously. I would never give this guy money. And then there are investors who were like, this guy's got something. This guy's different. This guy's real. And it was so easy for us to raise money because I was just authentic. And the amazing thing is, all the investors that we attracted were really cool, laid back.
I just was going to say that. Yeah, you're going to have a much better connection with those investors too, because they are, you know, they're your people, right?
Exactly.
Makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
I love it.
And so the best advice that I can give anyone, if they're going into a pitch or a presentation, be authentic, be real, and you're actually going to enjoy it, because it's hard being fake. It takes a lot of energy being inauthentic. It's not fun, you know, and so many of us, we wear so many different masks. You know, it's like you're a different person at Starbucks, you know, with the person at the register than you are with your coworkers, than you are with your husband or wife, than you are with your best friend, your brother or sister. It's like we have all these different masks. And it's like, if you could take off the mask and just be you everywhere you go, you have so much more energy, and you realize that people love you. And when it comes to authenticity, I always teach my clients something called the rule of thirds. So when you're being yourself, when you're just authentic, a third of people are going to naturally love you for who you are. Another third of people are going to naturally hate you for who you are. And the other third of people don't care who you are. You know, and we can all relate to that. You know, we've all met someone where it's like, oh man, I just love them. Or, oh man, I just really don't like them. I don't know what it is. Or, oh, yeah, they're okay. And so it's like, the problem is that most of us are focused on the haters and the people that don't care about us, and we want them to love us.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the third of people that love you for who you are, it's going to be so much easier to be authentic. And for the investors, it was like, we found that small sliver of investors who were like, I love who this guy is.
Yeah.
And that's what we focused on. That was so easy.
I love that.
Money.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So talk a little bit about what you're doing today now. Is this, because I feel like this kind of all correlates into your new project too, right?
Yeah. So we raised money from investors, and, we built this team of 25 people. We're on pace to raise another $2 million, in 8 months. And we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like looking at my life, and I'm like, I'm 27 years old. Here I am. I'm basically where I wanted to be. And I'm like living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is I'm completely unhappy and unfulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I looked at my life and I'm like, I should be happy. This is so frustrating. I sacrificed so much and I worked so hard to get to this point just to realize that I'm unhappy and I'm unfulfilled. And it's like, imagine you spend your entire life climbing one mountain, and you go through all the bumps and the bruises and the scrapes and the scratches, and you fall down and get up, and you finally get to the top of the mountain, and you're excited and you're about to throw your fist in the air and celebrate. But all of a sudden you look across the valley and you realize you climbed the wrong mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heartbreaking. And that's the feeling that I had. That's the experience I had. Like, I built the wrong business. I hate social media marketing. I'm just good at it. I don't want to do this anymore. The last thing I want to do is raise more money from investors and be stuck in this company for the next 10 years. I can't stand waking up and going to work every day to my own company. So I thought I was building a palace, but I actually ended up building this prison.
Yeah.
And then I would go home and I would realize, oh, the relationship that I'm in, the girl that I thought I was going to marry, this is actually a toxic relationship. I can't stand it. Mm-hmm. And so I had this quarter life crisis. It was like my midlife crisis when I was 27. And I realized I'm completely unhappy and unfulfilled and I hate my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that rocked my world. And I started to look inward and figure out, like, how did I get here? And I had this massive realization that I had gotten to this point because I spent my entire life listening to my head rather than my heart. I'd spent my entire life chasing money rather than happiness. And really, I'd spent my entire life chasing someone else's dream. And in that moment, I made this promise to myself that for the rest of my life, I was going to follow my heart. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that led to me downsizing my company, giving away all my stuff, breaking up with my girlfriend, and buying a one-way ticket to Nepal.
Wow.
And completely different direction. Yeah. I had to go to all my investors and said, sorry, you gave us $500,000, but I got to go on this soul searching journey and find my passion and purpose in life. And I'm going to move to India. And they're like, huh? But they were such cool, down to earth investors. They all said, you got to do what you got to do. I support you, which was amazing. Incredible. Wow. That's part of the authenticity, why the authenticity is so important. If I had been fake and got all these other super serious investors, they'd be like, we're going to sue you. Like, you're not going anywhere. Right. Like, it's not going to happen. But we had these amazing investors. And so I got on a plane to Nepal. My plan was to be gone for 3 months. It ended up being 3 years.
Wow.
So I lived in a yoga and meditation retreat in the Himalayas for 3 months. I traveled through Myanmar for a month. I lived in Thailand for 2 years. I got to work in an elephant sanctuary. I got to live with monks. And then I went to Bali for a year. And when I was in Bali, that's when my life changed, because that's when I actually launched my coaching business. Mm-hmm. And in my first 8 weeks of launching my coaching business, I coached 100 people one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And that's when I had this massive epiphany that everyone in the world was fighting the same battle that I was between their head and their heart. Mm-hmm. Or what I started calling your inner sheep and your inner lion. Your mm-hmm. inner sheep is that little voice that comes from fear and self-doubt and creates all these excuses and holds you back in life. And then your heart, your inner lion, that's your soul, that's your greatest self. That comes from courage and confidence and faith. And every choice we make, your sheep, your lion is trying to control it. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, I'd gotten to that unfulfillment because I listened to my sheep my whole life. Now I'm listening to my lion, and I go through this process, and then I realize everyone needs this, and so I'm doing all this coaching, and then I decided to start my personal development brand called 8 Billion Lions, and created my own proprietary system of coaching and all that stuff, and launched my personal development brand, and spoke on my first stage. And, then I finally came back to the US. So I went through this 3-year soul searching journey where I started off completely unhappy and unfulfilled. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 3 years, and completely happy, completely fulfilled. I found my purpose in life. I launched a business I love. I coached thousands of people. And now today I am living this life that inspires me deeply. Like I would not trade my life for anyone else's, not the most, successful entrepreneur or famous actor or athlete, because I'm living my authentic life. And I have a business that I'm obsessed with. I have this personal development brand that's all about helping people find their purpose and live like lions.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm focused on now. The next phase of my business is I'm stepping out of coaching and I'm stepping into speaking, because my true passion is to be on stage and inspire people. And so that's the phase that I'm in right now with my business. So,
and what types of, things would you say that you excel at helping people, bring out in themselves? Obviously, like, you're teaching them how to follow their heart, but how do they know? Maybe there's some people that think that they're happy with what it is that they're doing, but, there's this whole other thing that, they might have never even experienced before, right? Like, how do they know that they're unhappy if maybe they've never experienced what, true happiness actually is, right?
Yeah, totally. It all comes down to purpose. How much are you living with purpose? How fulfilled are you? Because a lot of people are living life where like, I have a good life. I have a house, I have kids, I have a wife that I love, I have the car, like, I'm living a good life. But are they deeply passionate? Do they wake up inspired by the life they're living? Do they have fire in their soul? And that's the first thing that I look for. And most people don't, because most people have no idea what their purpose is on this planet.
Yeah.
The definition of purpose is why something exists. And what I learned is, I had the outward success, but I didn't have any inward purpose. I didn't know why I existed. And when I found that, when I went on the soul searching journey, it transformed me as a person. Yeah. Now I have this massive vision. My company's name is 8 Billion Lions, because my vision is to live in a world where everyone is being a lion, all 8 billion of us, and to change the status quo from the highest form of success is you being the person you were born to be and living into your purpose. And so what I look at is, the first step is you got to figure out who you are, because there's a person that you were born to be, but then there's also the person you were trained to be.
Yeah.
And we live in this world where most of us were trained to be something that we're not. And this is the first thing that I step into. We get really clear on who's your lion versus who is your sheep. And, we do that. And it is really, really powerful for people, because in that moment, they remember who they are. And they can look back to when they were a kid and they can be like, that's how I was when I was a kid. Or they can look back to every moment in their life when they were fulfilled and they're like, that's who I was. It's like my inner lion is confident, courageous, bold, and fun.
Okay.
I look back to when I walked into Techstars in a white suit, confident, courageous, bold, and fun. When I stood on stage, did Gangnam Style, confident, courageous, bold, and fun. When I gave all my stuff and moved to a third world country, confident, courageous, bold, and fun. And so it's like, I forgot who that person was. And instead I was being my sheep, weak, small, insecure, scared.
Yeah.
And so many of us, we've been trained to listen to our head more than our heart. So we've disconnected from our soul, from our intuition. And that's why so many people in this world are unfulfilled. Like I just read yesterday that 71% of millennials are unfulfilled in their job. And it's like, man, that's crazy. That's 50 million people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they don't know what their purpose is. They don't know why they exist. And I know how hard that is, because that's where I was. And when I found my purpose, everything changed dramatically. Now I have this magnificent obsession that I'm so lit up about, where it's like, oh, it's just amazing. And I want that for everyone.
You can see, like you can feel it and see it in, in your voice and your mannerisms, and that you can tell that you're deeply passionate about. Do you have any, I guess, tips or advice on how to start uncovering? And I'm assuming that this is, a process that takes a little while to fully be able to develop, what you were, meant to do. But are there any exercises that you can think of off the top of your head to sort of relay, how to start walking down that path?
Totally. So it took me 3 years to figure all that out. I've actually condensed it into a 7-day program for my clients, so they don't have to go on a 3-year soul searching journey and go through all the stuff that I went through. Because once you've actually done it, you can look back and be like, what are the steps I took to get there? And you can condense time for people. So I got it down to where I could do it 7 days with people and they could walk out knowing their purpose on this planet, which is exciting. But the first thing that I always start with, that I would recommend all your listeners to do, is start with your vision for the world. What's the problem you want to solve in the world? What most people do is they do it backwards, and they think, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What do people need? What will people pay for? It's like ikigai.
Yeah.
And it's like, what I've learned is that's not the best way to do it, because what you like to do might change. That's changed 100 times. But the problem you want to solve in the world, the difference you want to make in the world, what I've learned is that never changes, because that's in your heart and soul. That is deep down inside. So what you actually start with is, what is your vision for the world? To live in a world where blank. And this is where I have my clients really get clear on, if you could solve one problem, if a genie came down and said, I will solve one problem for humanity, what would you like it to be? That's what you start with. You start with the problem you want to solve for the world. For me, it's wasted potential.
Yeah.
So seeing humanity, we're full of potential, we're wasting it. Seeing a human being who's full of potential and not living into it, like, it breaks my heart. The reason why that's so important to me is because when I grew up, I had these amazing parents who were full of potential, and they wasted it with alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I have this deep, deep passion for helping people live into their potential. So if I could solve one problem in the world, it would be wasted potential. And so my vision for the world is to live in a world where everyone is living into their potential, all 8 billion of us, hence why the name of my company is called 8 Billion Lions, because when you're living like a lion, you're living into your potential. And that's why I have all these coaching products and all these, courses and all this stuff. And it's designed to do one thing: help you live into your potential.
I love that.
So when you find that, when you get clear on the problem you want to solve for the world, let that decide what kind of business you start, what kind of company you work for, what kind of people you hang out with. Because your vision, once you're clear on that, your vision makes all your decisions for you. It decides your lifestyle, it decides your friends, it decides what books you read, what shows you watch, it decides everything. And the thing is, what's amazing about that is that comes from your heart and soul, and it's never going to change. That's your purpose. That's why you exist. You exist to solve that problem in the unique way that you were meant to solve it. And then when you look back on your life, everything makes sense. My childhood, growing up with alcoholic parents, makes perfect sense. Because if they were great, amazing parents, I would see people living into their potential, and I wouldn't care about anyone living into their potential. So I went through that pain and that suffering, but that pain led me to my purpose. And so your life makes sense when you get really clear on that. So it's really easy. Ask yourself, if I could solve one problem in the world for humanity, what would it be? And that is going to be the breadcrumb that's going to get you to the next level and the next level and the next level.
I have to say too, I love, so I try to do the exact same thing, but I love how you've taken what a lot of people would hang their hat on as, a negative and woe is me, look at what I had, look at what I've had to endure. And you've turned that into a positive. Like you've turned that into one of your strengths and the reason why I'm doing this. So kudos to you for taking that path. I absolutely love that you look that in that direction. So
yeah.
What would you say that you would like a person that would be perfect for you would be someone who's thinking about going out and doing their own thing, whether that, be starting a company or joining some type of an organization or somehow giving back or again, spawning something, right? Would you say that that would be a good time for them to come in and go through your program to be able to make sure that they are aligned with whatever they truly feel like they should be doing, and not just going off and doing something because it's in front of them or it was a thought or whatever?
Yes, 100%. There's two kinds of people that I love working with and that I can help the most. The people who are right on the edge of a big change.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to start my own business, or I'm going to move to a different country. I'm going to do this, do that, because you got to make sure you're making that choice from the right place.
Yeah.
That business that you're starting coming from your head or your heart. If it's coming from your head, at some point you're going to lose momentum because you're not going to be passionate about it. If it's coming from your heart, you'll never walk away from it. Yeah. And so if it's a business or if it's a relationship or something like that, and so you got to get really clear, where is this decision coming from? Is it my ego, my soul, my sheep, my lion, my lower self, my higher self, whatever you want to call it? Because that's a decision that you have to live with the rest of your life. Like, I wish I could have talked to myself when I was 27, and I sold that company and I had money in the bank and said, hey, Chris, this next business that you start, do you want to make a lot of money or do you want to be happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no one said anything like that. I was just like, I want to make money so I could, sell my company for $100 million and become a venture capitalist. And it's like, I have no interest in any of that.
Yeah.
That's just what I thought was sexy. That's like the cool thing to do. And so anyone who's on the verge of making a big decision, like it's so powerful. So you have clarity because that's a decision you're going to live with forever. And then the other people that I really, really can help the most and that I love working with are unfulfilled millennials. It's like they might have a great life and, they wake up every day and they do their thing, but they're also asking themselves, isn't there more to life than this? Like, shouldn't I be happier? Like, I've got all this stuff, I've got all the things, but I've got this emptiness inside. There's something missing. They know deep down inside there is something missing. And there's this unfulfillment that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I really am passionate about helping because I've been there and I know what they're missing and it's purpose. Anyone who feels unfulfilled or feels this emptiness inside, it's only because they're not clear on their purpose. Because once you find your purpose, once you get clear on why you exist in this world and what you want to create, the fulfillment is there.
Yeah.
Like I want to build the largest personal development brand in the entire world and lead a revolution that changes the world. I'm not there yet, but I'm fulfilled every day because I'm moving towards it. And that's the amazing thing. When you get clear on your purpose, you don't have to achieve your purpose to be fulfilled. A purpose is different than a goal. A goal, you're not going to be fulfilled until you actually achieve it.
Right. Right.
So you spend 99% of your time trying to achieve this goal for the 1% fulfillment that you're going to feel at the very end if you actually achieve your goal. And so it's kind of a miserable process a lot of the time because you're suffering and you're struggling versus a purpose. It's like, I have this purpose that I might never live into because it's huge. It's massive. Lead a revolution that changes the world. Come on. But every single day I'm taking one step closer. So I feel this massive level of fulfillment. And it's one of the best feelings to feel like nothing is missing.
Yeah.
And so anyone, who's really struggling with that emptiness or that unfulfillment or feeling unsatisfied, those are the people that I can really help the most, because when you find your purpose, fulfillment is just a way of being. You wake up fulfilled, and it's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Chris, this is fantastic. If people want to learn more about you or your programs, what would be the best way to reach out and get in touch?
They can go to 8billionlions.com. So the number 8 and then billion with a B, lions with an S, 8billionlions.com. And they connect with me on there. They can look at different courses, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
I love it. Chris, this is fantastic. Kudos to you with all the success, and keep changing us all into lions. That'll be fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.